I call the Honourable Leanne Dalzell.
Very much for the opportunity to contribute on these last of the committee stages of the Environment Canterbury Temporary Commissioners and Improved Water Management Amendment Bill. The reason that I did want to take a call in this particular debate was because of the issues that have been raised by so many others, but also points that were made in front of the Select Committee. So, I mean, I had the opportunity to sit on that Select Committee and hear submissions on this particular piece of legislation. And there was considerable anger in the room, and I wanted to kind of reflect that in the House here, that that degree of anger comes from the fact that this is called the Environment Canterbury Temporary Commissioners and Improved Water Management Amendment Bill, because temporary commissioners were established in 2010. All of the submitters were opposed to it then, and all of us are opposed to it today. But the real slight, I guess, in the title comes from the use of the language improved water management, when we know perfectly well that this legislation is designed to ensure that management of the water in our Canterbury region is undertaken in a way that removes it from the democratic oversight. And that is deliberate. It is quite a deliberate decision to do that. And I've heard government members talk about the impact of the earthquakes with respect to this decision. It's got nothing to do with that. Back in 2010, there was a report done. It was chaired by Wyatt Creech, a former minister in a national government. His part of the report was quite different from the independent analysis that accompanied that report, which said that ECAN was getting back on track, and that in fact the water chapters were almost concluded, and in fact what the incoming commissioners have been able to put in place relates to all of the very hard work that was done before they came on the scene. So to say that this is an improved water management legislation, it really does not reflect the truth of the situation, nor does it reflect the degree of anger that is felt in the Canterbury region as a result of this particular extension. When that review came out in 2010, it was made absolutely crystal clear that there would be that the elections would be held no later than the elections scheduled for late 2013. And in fact, the Honourable Nick Smith, at the time, he was absolutely explicit about the fact that we could return to elections even before the 2013 year, but that would be the last point. And so reinstated by 2013, it was absolutely the end point of a process, and to now have legislation extending it out to 2016 has represented a betrayal of the trust that people showed in that particular minister at the time. And I think, as colleagues have referenced, the regulatory impact statement, again, that's not reflected in the title of this bill or its commencement provisions, because even the ministry, and I'd have to say that the regulatory impact statement doesn't meet the adequacy test of a regulatory impact statement, and that's because there has not been, and it states this, a Crown-led public consultation process with Canterbury stakeholders and communities and the options and there is. And if you don't have that degree of consultation and engagement with the wider community, then the analysis can be flawed. But even with the flawed analysis, they still came up with the options 1 and 2 were the preferred options, and those two related to the legislation to allow for a mixed governing body in the interim as we move back to a fully democratic body, or alternatively legislation to establish a permanent mixed governing body. And in fact, the departments themselves, the department and the ministry, stated that it really did. The net benefits of the options, which measured against the status quo, are finely balanced. The choice between the two options essentially comes down to the relative weight attached to democracy versus stability. And that, to me, is the essence of what is so wrong with this legislation and why Labor so strongly opposes it. And in being opposed to this legislation, we are on the side of the people of Canterbury, Mr Chairman.
I call the honourable member Eugenie Sage.
Was very pleased to see that the Deputy Leader of Labor had adopted the